Why won't that be true?
I don't think by truth. I think it's a process that we developed.
Wiring.
It's our wiring. Our wiring is that I take care of you as a child so that you can take care of me. Now, the wiring does not apply to the children, but 2000. But 2000, they say, I'm not ready to pay your black tax. That's your baby. You paid it, it's fine for your part, but now I'm not ready. That is why I advise Bondad to say, Bondad, take care of your children, but have a limit. You are a human being. You were born to be cared for, and the best person to care for you is you.
It's like no one can love me more than myself.
Exactly.
The world will treat me the way I am treating myself.
Exactly. And in the main, men are treated the way they treat themselves.
Tuning into 102.9, makube njalo kude kube ngunaphakade. Let's have a beautiful Sunday.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm Kopi.
Kopi.
Yes.
Deepest condolences also.
Thank you very much.
I saw a video that you sent, Mawani, and I began to realize that there are ages and stages where a person begins to deteriorate.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, we are all coming. I was actually talking to my brother-in-law now. Kimufa, the scenario as it happened. And how do you then feel? No, my mother had to give space for pension payout because I'm also on my way there. The congestion was going to be big.
Imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's one of those things. And we continue the discussion of a man. Backed by popular demand, we've been asked that we should continue, and people are looking forward to this. Maybe a disclaimer, it is important that we understand that when we raise issues needed or issues of men, we are not necessarily attacking women, and our aim is to educate and to also broaden the horizon and also change the mindset on how we've been perceived. We live in a life where, for example, if you come from the School of Engineering, you'd be said like electrical, you would say, well, how has this been wired? So we have been wired in a particular way. And the way we have been wired, we are beginning to realize that this wiring is wrong because it is making us to behave and do in a particular pattern. Sure. And therefore we are trying to change the pattern. Sure. We are trying to change the paradigm.
Sure.
Let's talk about this man. That is like the last week when we were closing it up. We were talking about a man who had to do everything for a woman or to please a woman. Now, there's another man that finds himself stopping to live for himself and live for the children.
Sure.
And give it into a hore bana baka batlapile. Whatever they want, I will do for them. With the hope they will be able to carry me. Is that the right way? Is it the right thing to do?
It is not. Life is lived in stages, and people come into these stages for a particular reason. And we should understand so far, or it is not necessarily that it will happen in that pattern that one day will come to become my savior when I'm old. It doesn't work like that.
Yes.
Naturally, because my child has got also her own pressures and her own life or his own life to live. Then I've got my own life to live. My mother had her own life to live, and she lived that to the fullest.
She ran the race.
Yes.
Yes.
And then now I'm running my own race. I'm in my own lane. This lane will never get congested. So each and every individual must run in their own lane. And it is these lanes that we should respect. So ndate o are uphelela bana ba hae ke kopa mo fa advice. How we etse with limitations. Tsa ho tseba hore bana ba hao are not responsible for you when your time of aging comes. They are responsible for their own life. And in fact, one of the things that put people, black kids, to start way behind their peers, is because when a white child, when a white parent is alive, who prepare a retirement, so that he lacks to be a burden to his own children. He move on. When he's done, he's taken to an old age home. He spends his money there. And I was told by one of my colleagues to say, we even pay these things while we are still working in advance, so that when we go there, we don't have to spend our pensions on that. We can spend our pensions on feeding ourselves. So that's how prepared they are for this journey of becoming old. Now here's an old black person. When I'm old, I want to bring my kids into being my guardians, to say, no, now I have worked for them, now they work for me. Now by the time they start to work for their lives, if you live and you die at 60 something, you give them an opportunity to start. Mara, remember, if you were to die at 80, 90, you've taken 30 years from their life, from their productive life. You've taken that 30 years.
But can I go telling us that I agree you carried them. It becomes their responsibility to also carry you. And carrying in a lady two ways. Makala, you paid a bond, you've paid off the house. And therefore, when you go to a home, what happens to the house that you bought? Two, banally grandchildren, which you are better placed to can teach and educate them. And when now, as a grandparent, you are not as harsh as they would be, so better. But the discussion and the topic, I want to go back to it. One that they've got this tendency to want to carry whatever. Now I want to talk about this man, and I'm going to give two scenarios. But the first scenario, this other one is a doctor, successful. So we Cape Town, we Durban, we happy Matlosan. So go university go Durban, Westville. So udula go Durban. O whether medicine, then go Natal. After Bakudile, they have Baratile to it. Meomone leaves you go Matlosan and goes to stay Libana, go Natal. Are ulo tlhokomela ditloholo. When as an old man, you found yourself wanting, when I did high blood, when I did look say 70 something, how
Sure.
Why won't that be true?
I don't think by truth. I think it's a process that we developed.
Wiring.
It's our wiring. Our wiring is that I take care of you as a child so that you can take care of me. Now, the wiring does not apply to the children, but 2000. But 2000, they say, I'm not ready to pay your black tax. That's your baby. You paid it, it's fine for your part, but now I'm not ready. That is why I advise Bondad to say, Bondad, take care of your children, but have a limit. You are a human being. You were born to be cared for, and the best person to care for you is you.
It's like no one can love me more than myself.
Exactly.
The world will treat me the way I am treating myself.
Exactly. And in the main, men are treated the way they treat themselves. Let's be honest. Let us be honest. Alright? Bona they buy Kapusa 29 rand and get another one for free. So now we buy Kapusa 3,000 rand.
Okay.
And I'm saying, I wake up every morning at 5 o'clock to be at work at 7:30. I knock off sometimes at 9 o'clock, come home tired. Must I not buy myself a shoe and look at behind my children and say, my children must wear the best shoes that I never wore? Yes, of course, they should, but they should not do that at my expense.
They must work for them.
They must work for them. I will carry them up to a particular point. I've said to my children, and I've got an agreement with them, and I hope they're listening. I said to them, look, I left my mother's home, the only child, the only son. I left my mother's home at the age of 22. I never returned back home.
Yes.
Never. I had difficulties. I went through divorces. I went through everything. But I never went back. Because I made an agreement with myself to say, I'm not going back home. I took care of my mother. I built a house. I finished it. And then I left my mother. I said, Mama, life is okay. I don't want your pension. It's your pension. We be the case. All what I'm going to do is to help you continue to live your life. But I cannot do it while I'm staying here. Let me go and do it. Now I had an agreement with my children to say, I left at 22. I give you grace of 4 years. At 26, I don't want you in my house.
Yes.
I don't want you in my house.
Yes.
And I'm being honest when I say it. At 22, you must either have your own business or you must be a slave of another man. But you can't be my slave. You must walk, you must go out, you must fend. And I have a 25-year boy who has left my home. And people were saying, but I said, no. If I do that to him, he will never understand where I come from with my own life.
Yes.
You must understand. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to educate my children. I'm not saying I'm not going to fend for my children. I've got a daughter, she's 22. She knows she's left with 4 years. And in these 4 years, she must gather herself.
And live. Yes.
And live and be herself. The day she gets out of my shadow, she can be able to defend her brand, which is herself.
True.
Until she leaves, she will live under the shadow of my brand. And that's not how life is wired for us to happen. She will never be able to compete with her peers. We are releasing our children to go and compete with their peers. That's what we are doing.
Yes.
That's what we are doing.
Yes, it's true. Now, so you are saying, you are in agreement with me that it becomes wrong for a father to want you to father forever, release your children on a particular age, teach them things. In the animal kingdom, lions, they hunt for you, but on a particular age, they go hunt with you. After, you must move.
You must move. Not only the lions, an eagle does that.
Exactly.
An eagle feeds its child, feeds it. When it is done and it feels that the child is okay, takes the child, fly very high, leave the child. If the child is not going to fly on her own, she will go and die. And the eagle would say, I've done my part. So if animals, two, we have now mentioned one in the kingdom of birds and one in the kingdom of animals. If those can do that, if they can do that, what about us?
But we have seen there's this tendency. That's why, I'm trying very hard to avoid because I think next week let's talk about the righteous woman.
Exactly.
And the role of a righteous woman in society and in her own family.
Sure.
Bombe would defend Banababone when I feel it's 45 at Lago High. And our lady, the o lady, and up well, what well. Mesabone, who can us in same one?
No, it happens in the Malungane. And a woman is also another wiring in today's life. And let me put it this way. In the past, in the repair body on W, resina distance. And would surround our family and until it becomes a khotla.
Yes.
And while we were doing that, what were other nations doing? They were achieving what we have not achieved.
Which is
setting ourselves free, so free even to free ourselves from us.
True.
One of the challenges is that blacks are not ready to free themselves from themselves. If you can't dominate yourself, you can't dominate others.
Or see yourself as an extension and an expansion and be able to say, in this environment, I'm going to start my own choir.
Let me repeat this thing that I usually say. Until our children realizes that what they call surnames is brand in waiting.
Yes.
And what they call surname. The problem with us, even our culture, is that a surname is a means of identification. In other spheres of life, in other nations, a surname is a means of organizing resources around that surname.
True.
And that's where we differ. Let's know, Selepe is not a means of identification unless there's resources to back Selepe up. Mercedes-Benz would have not been a Mercedes-Benz unless Mr. Mercedes and Mr. Benz realize that our surnames are in essence our way to life.
Now, when you speak like this, let's talk generational wealth.
Sure.
Malungane compared to ngwana o mongwe o tswang to an affluent family, ke 4-0. 4-0 because Hlangi is not going to inherit anything.
Yes.
He's not going to inherit a business. He's not going to inherit. You've like you easily, you correctly said,
Sure. And that's where we fail to do a generational wealth because we can't transfer. Now we are saying to our children, because I failed you, I'm going to make sure that you fail yourself by being a burden to you. Because if you had transferred wealth to this child, you would say, take care of me using my own wealth. Now you don't transfer anything,
yes,
but you want your child to take care of you. How does that work?
It's a problem.
It's a problem. So I'm saying it is time that South Africans and Africans in general understand that we are not saying do not take care of your parents, but we are saying parents must be ready to let you fly out of the nest. Until that happens.
Maybe another way in the slave, I stand to be corrected. I've always had this belief that I am 10% smarter than my own parents who give birth to me.
Sure.
What does that mean? It means if my parents come from a 4-roomed house, I can't live in a 4-roomed house.
You can't.
I must be a better version of them.
Sure.
So that means Bana Baka should be far better than me because they should be wiser and be better than Nna. But we are having a situation where we are fathering until old age.
We shouldn't, and letting your children fly, in another language they call it tough love. It's not tough love, it's not hard love, it's normal love. It's normal love. And let me demonstrate that it is normal love. You know, if I love my son and I want my son to succeed for him, I must be able to give my son an advice on how to succeed.
True.
And here's the discussion that I had with my son. It might have not materialized, but at least I had that discussion with him. I said to him, I'm going to fund you to go to school if you are ready to come back and start your own business. Then he said, why? I said, you can't be a person of 7'4" like your father. You must be better than me.
Yes.
So go and enhance this brand that I'm giving you. Go and enhance it. And he said, how? I said, go do your own business. Tama, I'll fund you. And that is why my first starting point of funding was funding him to do technology. And then he came back, he said he's not ready to do technology, he wants to do electrical engineering. I said, I'm funding you. Now, he didn't finish either of them. Now he's a 7'4" guy. Now he comes to me, he says, how do I get out of this poverty? I said, I tried. I tried.
I gave you gold, yes.
I gave you gold, and I'm still ready to give it to you. Even when I go on pension, I will give you my pension to say, you are ready to start a business? Yes. Here's an investment. I've got 3 million, take it and do business. Because for me, it is you to enhance the brand and grow it. so that my legacy does not die.
Yeah, but the black families are no longer thinking like that. I tend to imagine very 16th of December, mostly the families they are the family di bua ka eng, separate from go nwa bojwala, separate from go tagwa le go lwana. Batho ba rona ba bua ka eng, se ba tshwantse ba bue ka sona, because in other families ha ba dutse ba plan a clear generational wealth. Listen, in the next 5 years we need to own a private hospital, and therefore we need to groom a CEO of the hospital, and what is great is this person grade 12. This one must be a chartered accountant. This one must be a doctor. This one must be. Our people are not thinking that way. So as when they begin to run this company, they run a company. Why is there go financing? We've got 4 members of the family who are running this family business and are taking it to another level.
Going to school is purposeful.
Yes.
In other nations.
Yes.
Going to school in our environment is grandstanding.
Yeah, or fulfilling.
Or fulfilling
an obligation.
An obligation. Going to school is purposeful in other people's lives. When this Indian family decide they have a daughter and a son, they are owning a small fish and chip shop. They say to the son, what do you want to own? And then the son says, I want to own ShopRite. They say, okay, marry into Ackerman's family. That's the planning. Marry into the
marriages are deliberate.
Marriages are deliberate, not only deliberate, but they are viewed. And here's the difference. They are not viewed as emotional things. They are viewed as logical, financial contracts.
And generational.
Financial contracts.
Yes.
The moment you understand that a marriage is a contract, permanent, and remember, when I commit to marry my wife, I'm committing a non-existing pension fund, 50% of it. She's committing a non-existing pension fund, 50% of it. So this marriage is not an emotional contract. This marriage is a financial contract.
Very true.
And we should understand it from there. Young people must not go to marriage because they love the curves of a woman. They must know that you need a woman that comes as a package, the woman who answers the questions that are on the table, the woman who answers critical questions. What do you bring in this relationship? So, Bondate, we need to raise our sons to understand that you are not an ATM of a woman. We need to raise our daughters to understand that you are not a person standing on the queue to withdraw money from an ATM. You must generate your own money so that when you are in a relationship, you do not become a spendthrift. You know how the money comes into the family.
You marry a person that will double the money.
And remember, when we talk about women, we must talk about women as incubators and multipliers, because that's what they are designed to be.
Suitable helpers.
Sure, that's what they are designed to be. But we are saying to this man, this young man who's about to be married in the next 5 years, when you marry in the next 5 years, understand one point: marriage is a financial contract.
And also, other nationalities, they say in the step, when you are dating in a family, go and study the behavior of that family, including the mother of your wife. Because your wife is going to be just like a mother. So it is important that you study this family, you get to understand him, you get to understand them, and also understand them when they are angry, what they do. Understand them, how they celebrate things. Because if you don't,
you're going to be shocked.
Uzoyichisa le Range Rover lo sisi. Uzoyichisa le yondlu lo sisi.
In a people of anger.
Exactly.
You need to do that. And you need to know how your mother-in-law expresses herself, because her expressions will come with your wife.
He also, the third one, Also, the mother-in-law, how she is also addressing the father-in-law.
Critical.
Because Ghana have got a problem of submitting. Because me wakaka submit. So in an environment that's submissive. Submit again that.
Sure.
In some of our tribes, the people that leads and they want that to become comfortable. But when you choose to marry in a different tribe, whereby the man is in charge, and therefore little power, because you just do not understand the dynamics of this thing.
Sure, and that's why when you marry, you know, when I did into in our education system, one of them was a subject called ethnology.
Yes.
If you study ethnology, in a deep sense of ethnology, not this thing that they wanted us to study of this ethnic behaves this way, but to sit down and say, that's the first part. Second part, and that is he a product of 25 divorces? If he is, I'm marrying a son who's going to be exactly the same.
Yo.
Mabona, how does she look at the husband? Who actually wins the debate in the house? How discussing? If it's the mother, and when you are marrying into that family, know that you are marrying a noisy lady. Very noisy. Know that. Now, we are saying to a man, it is time. One of the challenges, as I conclude, they don't talk to other men. We had a discussion on Friday. I want us to repeat that discussion.
No, we should.
Brilliant.
We should be able to do that, and also that is that it is important also to Kiki conclude. Surround yourself with people that you want to become.
Sure.
Move away from people that you know about. Get people that are able to tell you.
Sure.
Hey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. We need to do that.
We need to do that.
Thank you.
Until then.
Sure.
Allah.